In last week's episode of my solo road trip across New Zealand, I visited Hamner Springs, visiting Dog Stream Waterfall and summiting Mount Isabel. In this week's episode, I make my way through to Kaikoura, the last stop on my journey, where I reflect on my travels and the importance of doing things by yourself. I hope you enjoy this week's episode. The last day of my road trip, I only had one thing on my mind, and that was the coastal walkway. I had walked this at the start of my trip, but unfortunately my camera had died, so I didn't get to capture the absolute stunning beauty of this walk. It's one thing to have sheer cliffs and a beautiful blue ocean, but it's another thing altogether to look over your shoulder and see snow-capped mountains on the other side. Whilst Portrait de la Jeune Fille en Feu doesn't have those epic mountains, the coast reminded me a lot of those beautiful beach scenes and also got me thinking about some of the major themes of the film. If you haven't seen it before, I'm not going to break the plot to you, but some of the major themes are tradition, freedom, and most importantly, love. These themes had me reflecting on the trip and how I felt travelling by myself. Whilst I love solo travel, I have to be honest and say that it's always forced rather than chosen. I would have absolutely loved to do this trip with someone else, and also when I go overseas to have someone to travel with. But sometimes life doesn't work out that way, and even if you can't have the ideal you want, it's always better to do things by yourself than not do them at all. One of the biggest things I learned on this trip was how important it is to be able to have fun with yourself. When you look at kids, they're usually playing with others, but I think what we forget is that as kids, we're always able to occupy our own attention and have fun, even if there's really nothing to do. They always find something to enjoy and have fun with. They let their imagination and creativity run wild. And for me, I definitely did a lot of that on the trip. Part of that creativity for me is filmmaking. I often feel like when people film things, they can distract themselves from the experience that they're having and actually remove themselves from the environment. But on this trip, when I was making these films, I actually felt more immersed in the landscape when I was setting up my shot. I ended up taking notice of so many more things that I otherwise wouldn't have picked up on if I hadn't been focused on composing my shot. So this is my home. Just need like a sleeping bag and some fairy lights. This is actually impressive. This is the best one I've ever seen. This is so cool. I feel like a little kid. This is my crib. It's beautiful. Lots of bora, but we ignore structural integrity when designing houses. Yes, we do. Well, ladies and gents, thanks for watching today's episode of MTV. I'll see you next week with a different luxury beachfront property. This one is free. It's actually free. Yeah, probably illegal, but free. So I think my final message and takeaway from this trip absolutely has to be to just go and do the things you want to. If you have someone to do it with, that's amazing, but don't even not do something or decide not to act upon your dreams just because you don't have someone there to support you. It's really hard to be your own biggest supporter and cheerleader, but I think that if you can believe in yourself, everything else becomes easy. So I hope you've enjoyed this series, and just stick around and subscribe to see my adventures in Southeast Asia. All my love, thank you for being here, and I'll see you again soon. Toodles! This is like the best one I've ever seen! Oh my goodness! MTV, welcome to my crib. Come on in, guys. You know, I feel like it must be really nice to be a seal. You just swim around and then you sunbathe all day and that's like your whole life. That sounds amazing. Jeez, okay. I want to be a seal.